Hi, I'm Glenn Whipp with the Los Angeles Times. Parks and Recreation just finished its 6th season. Joining us from the show, Adam Scott.
Hey, Glenn.
To talk about that and the greatest event in television history. Which, that last greatest event was a pretty damn great event.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, that
very
was
much.
like the culmination of, you did 4 of these.
Yes.
And maybe we should explain just a little bit about
Sure.
that to people who haven't seen it on Adult Swim.
Sure. The greatest event in television history is a show where in each episode we recreate shot by shot the opening credit sequence to a television show from the 80s. The first episode was Simon and Simon, which was a somewhat forgotten detective series from the early to mid 80s, starring Jameson Parker and Gerald McRaney.
It was right there with Magnum.
Yeah,
It was like the poor man's Magnum, maybe.
Although as a kid, I preferred Simon and Simon.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of that show. I wouldn't miss it for the world. In fact, I didn't start to appreciate Cheers until Simon and Simon was canceled because they were on against each other. So I was a latecomer to Cheers because of Simon and Simon. I was such a TV head as a kid.
I grew up in San Diego, so you don't really have to tell me about the importance of Simon and Simon.
Did you ever see them shooting around town?
No. They must have kept a pretty low profile.
Although
probably. It's weird to think of that show keeping a low profile.
I know.
Yeah, I don't know how I missed them.
They had some wild stunts on that show.
Yeah. So you had Simon and Simon.
Simon and Simon, and then the second episode we recreated the credit sequence of Heart to Heart, which was another 80s television show, and that was Amy Poehler and I doing that. Simon and Simon was John Hamm and I playing those two roles. Then Heart to Heart was Poehler and I, and then for our third episode we recreated Too Close for Comfort, which was a Ted Knight sitcom from the 80s, and then the final episode was Bosom Buddies with Paul Rudd and I recreating those credits.
Yeah. What I'm amazed at watching these episodes, they're like 12 to 15 minute short films, how long these title sequences were.
Yeah.
Like the Bosom Buddies.
Yeah.
It seemed to last. I mean, when you so what you do in these shows is with the Bosom Buddies, it was kind of Paul was very much going into method character for this.
What we found when we originally pitched the idea to Adult Swim was usually credit sequences are about 1 minute to 2 minutes long. Bosom Buddies is 2.5 minutes. It's incredibly long. But Simon and Simon, which at the time we weren't thinking of this as a series, it was just a one-off thing. It's 1 minute long. So Adult Swim couldn't have us just make 1 minute of programming for us. They needed at least to fill a 15-minute slot on their network. So we needed to figure out how to stretch the idea into 15 minutes. And Nick Weidenfeld, who was there at the time, was the first to say we need to fill one of these slots. And so we thought kind of a making of documentary, a fake making of documentary could be fun. In a sense, we could sort of poke fun at those self-congratulatory little mini documentaries you see DVD extras on for TV shows and movies. And so that's sort of what we went for. And we're inspired by a particular Chris Elliott sketch from Late Night with David Letterman. In about 1986, he pulled apart a sequence where Dave and he got into a fist fight on the set of Late Night with David Letterman, and they then cut to a making of how they achieved this particular fist fight, and George Takei came in and hosted, and it was this big overblown making of, self-congratulatory making of thing. And so we sort of used that as our inspiration and jumped into these profoundly stupid making of documentaries.
Hosted by
Jeff Probst,
who's just fantastic.
Yes.
He has the right tone.
Yeah.
The right comic tone.
He's amazing.
Did you know him, or?
Well, I'm a huge fan of Survivor, and I had kind of just through an improvisation dropped his name in Step Brothers, and it ended up in the movie. I dropped his name as being like one of my friends that I went on a fishing trip with, and it ended up in the movie. And so I approached him at a party once, and just to say, I'm a huge fan of Survivor. I was not making fun of you. I actually think you're terrific. And so we sort of just started being like email buddies. And so when this came up, we I just sent him an email and asked him if he wanted to do it. And luckily enough, he just said, yeah, sure, why not? And was, I think, just brilliant in the show.
Yeah. 2.5 minute title
Yeah.
for Bosom Bays. Like Parks and Recreation, I'm thinking 20 seconds.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, it's da-da-da-da, and it
Very
goes
quick, yeah.
very, I mean, and I think that's pretty typical now for most TV shows.
Yeah, if there's a credit sequence at all, usually they just throw the credits up over the opening scene of the show.
The golden age of TV themes.
Yes.
Gone.
It seems to be gone. I mean, Game of Thrones has a terrific one, but the ones we were looking at doing were usually, the credit sequence was made up primarily of clips from the actual episodes of the show, which is really fun to do, because then if we're doing a certain clip from a certain episode, we usually would try to investigate what was happening story-wise around that 1 second, maybe even half-second shot that they use in the credit sequence. And so it's this big, dumb thing that we were doing for Adult Swim, but the amount of work that went into it was absurd.
Right.
Which is why we kind of had to take a break, maybe indefinitely, from doing them, because we were going crazy.
It's like you were spending, what was it, was it the Bosom Buddies? No, it was the Too Close for Comfort, where they were bringing in the stunt team for the couch flip.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, it's sort of like that. It was becoming very elaborate to the point where maybe a little too much.
Yeah, we had a giant stunt rig where we had all of our actors up on wires being hoisted up into the air, ostensibly practicing for the couch flip at the end of the Too Close for Comfort. Paul Scheer, who wrote the episodes with me, had the idea that the Ted Knight falling backwards on the couch could be seen as this iconic stunt from the 80s, like Indiana Jones with the giant boulder rolling behind him, or the leap from the building in Sharky's Machine. I thought it was a really funny idea. So we did that, and I had just finished shooting The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, where for weeks Ben Stiller and I were up on wires, and we spent weeks rehearsing all of these, on these big wire rigs, doing all of this stuff. So it's sort of been ingrained into my psyche, all of this intense rehearsal up on wires, and after a couple months of doing this, I just thought, I hope I can do this again somehow, integrate this somehow into something. And so this big stunt that Paul Scheer had thought of, I thought it was a good place to throw some wires, because you start feeling pretty ridiculous after a while when you're up on these wires.
And it was pretty cool that the Bosom Buddies one, you were able to get the original Bosom Buddies back for brief cameos, as well as the guy who wrote the title song, Billy Joel.
Billy Joel.
But you didn't actually hear him singing it.
Yeah.
Because of rights.
Yeah, Billy Joel's song My Life was the theme song for Bosom Buddies. But something I didn't realize is that was a sound-alike singing the song My Life during the opening credits. So first of all, we needed to get the rights to the song if we were going to do the opening credits. So my wife Naomi, who produced the show, got in touch with his manager just to get the rights to the song, to try and start that ball rolling, to see if we could even afford it, which we probably couldn't. So we were going to probably have to beg them to give us some sort of deal so we could do it. So in explaining our show to his manager, she threw out the idea that if he wanted to act in it, we would love to have him. And so she sent him the episodes we had done thus far. And he ended up thinking they were funny, I guess, because he said he would do a bit with us, and he did, and he was terrific. I think absolutely everything that he does in the show was all improvised. He's hilarious.
He was enormously accommodating of you and Paul.
Yes. We were throwing out sub-moronic suggestions to him.
Yeah, what was the lyric that you guys... He was singing a lyric wrong.
Yeah, he said one of the lyrics in My Life is, now he gives them a stand-up routine in LA.
Right.
Paul and I suggest to him that he got it wrong. It's stand-up tartine in LA. And he just sings it as stand-up tartine and accommodates us. And
I think that's how he's doing it in concert now, probably, too,
it is.
Right?
Actually, no, I saw him play at the Hollywood Bowl last week, and
no,
he said he's changed it back, much to my chagrin.
Now, also, and are these on it? If you go to the Adult Swim website, are they there?
I believe so.
I think so.
All 4 episodes are on the Adult Swim.
They are fantastic.
Oh, thanks,
and
Glenn.
really,
Thank you.
Bear repeated viewings.
Oh, thanks, man.
It's now you're on another little show.
Yeah.
Parks and Rec.
Yes.
And just finished its 6th season with. I mean, Parks and Rec has kind of thrown us some surprises. In past years.
Yes.
Some things we didn't expect, but this, I understand, at the table read was just like everybody was just jaws dropping.
Yeah, it was a gasper.
A gasper, I like that.
We all of a sudden in the last page of our season finale episode, we're reading along, and suddenly there's a jump of 3 years, and we kind of open up in chaos in the Parks Department. The National Parks Department office now in Pawnee that Leslie is heading up. And Leslie has a different haircut. My character, Ben, is in a tuxedo. John Hamm is being fired for some reason. We have three 3-year-olds running around.
The triplets are now 3.
Yes. So Ron isn't there for whatever reason. Neither is Aziz. So... And then it just sort of ended, and everyone just kind of looked around the table like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And Mike hasn't really told us anything, so I'm not really sure where we're all headed either.
So you don't know why Ben was in that tux?
I do not know why Ben was in the tux.
Because I understand there is a reason.
Yeah, there is a reason.
Yeah.
Like, do you know?
No.
Oh, because I don't.
But I just read where Mike Schur, the creator, was saying that there was something cool happening to Ben.
I know that there are a few options, all of which could go away, and there's something else. But that's the fun of it, is that Mike and the writers now have to figure out how we all got to that point.
What's the best option?
That he's the president of the United States. And he's on his way to the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
That would be a 3-year, that would be a lot.
It's a stark ascension for Ben Wyatt.
Like a Game of Thrones ascension.
Yeah, he had to murder like 4 people.
Right, all the secession.
Yes, he murdered Ron and Tom. That's what happened, and now he's president.
That's why they're not. Yeah. Yeah, it was quite something in the online reaction. You mentioned Leslie's hair, like Amy's bangs.
She had bangs.
Apparently blew up on social media.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, as they should. That looked great.
Yeah. But so that was kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
And you guys are heading into your last season.
Yes.
I mean, it is the last season. They've made that official.
Yes, right? The 7th and final season.
Yeah. 13 episodes, so it's going to be kind of a smaller order.
Right.
And like 30 Rock did that so well.
Yes.
They had their last season, and they were able to sort of craft this kind of almost cable network story arc.
I think 13 episodes is a really much more relaxing amount of work, especially for the writers.
Right.
22 episodes is a huge workload for everybody. Not only is it just creatively tough to sustain certain arcs and storylines for 22, our scripts are usually like 40 pages long, and then they edit down as they bring it to air. But 22 minutes, 22 times. It's a lot of television.
I'm not going to do the
make.
math, but yeah. It's.
I'm not even going to try 22 times 22. Right. I don't think I could. If you gave me an hour, I probably couldn't figure it out. So 13 is much more kind of doable, and because usually in the show, it's the first 13 of the season is we usually it's the writers usually craft some sort of an arc that comes to somewhat of a conclusion by episode 13, and then we start, story-wise, start a couple more things that. So I think it'll be a very nice, doable amount of episodes. I think everybody's really, really happy about it being 13.
Yeah, I don't know this. When you signed on to the show, which third season?
End of the second season.
End of the second season.
Like the last 2 episodes of season 2.
Was it with the idea of staying this long? Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, I think I did those final 2 episodes with the idea of sticking around, but I think also they wanted to see how I fit in over there. I mean, if it was a disaster, then they could have kind of moved on, as they should have if it didn't work, But happily, it worked, and everybody was super nice and welcoming, and it just sort of seemed to click and work from the onset. And it was immediately just a great place to be, to work.
It's a show that's just very unique and special.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in this great age of TV where there's all these dark, disturbing things going on, anti-heroes.
Yes.
And here is this show that's about kind of the best
Yes.
that we as a species can be.
I agree. It's a really special show. And I like that it's about small-town politics, and it's about people kind of reaching. Leslie is reaching sort of above and beyond what she can achieve at the moment. She's always reaching for more than what she's able to accomplish at any given moment. And because of that, each time she reaches, she can reach a little bit higher. Not to sound too corny about it, but I really do like the optimism of the show, and love the optimism of her character. And it's real. It comes from Mike Schur being a good person and wanting to put something good into the world and being hilarious, and same with Polar. That's the nice thing about the show, is it's really coming from the hearts of the people who are making it. It's a real thing. And I've always been very, very proud to be over there working on the show.
And it's been nice to kind of see the characters. They've all grown a little bit, but not in, a lot of sitcoms as they age. There's sort of, even with the triplets, that's like the famous sitcom on its last legs, kind of, okay, let's bring in the babies. But it all seems very organic to the characters.
Yeah, and also the fact that with the 3-year jump at the end of the season, we skipped over the whole baby
spitting
thing.
Up, the changing of the diapers.
Yes, so we're not going to have any of that, and we're just going straight to toddlers, and we'll see how they handle that. But
straight to toddlers running around the White House.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Amy and I have both had a couple of kids. I don't think we wanted to go to work and deal with babies all day long. So I think we were both relieved with the 3-year jump.
And I would imagine, just thinking about this sort of family away from your family coming to an end has got to be a little bit hard.
Yeah, it's sad.
I mean, you said goodbye to Rob Lowe and Rashida Jones this year. That gave you a little taste of the goodbyes. Yeah.
It's going to be tough because we're all friends, and we all love working together. But I think we all also feel like it's good to finish up when the show is still great, and but it's incredibly bittersweet. It's going to be really, really sad.
Going to that set, the office,
I know.
those great paintings they have in the halls
for the last time.
Yeah,
I know.
it's a great set.
I'm not going to cry,
Funny.
Glenn. If that's, I don't know what you're going after here, but it's
I was
not
trying, but we'll have to wait till closer to the show. Right?
Yeah, talk to me in November if you want to see me cry. I probably will.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming down.
Thank you.
Talking to us today. It's been great talking to you.
You too, man.
All right.
All right.
For more television coverage, go to latimes.com. Thank you.